DBT11 Clash of Heroes should be releasing at the time this video is dropping, and it's a set I'm super excited for, with more glitter ride line support, new encounters, support for old encounters. We've got the Youthquake manga, 2 ride lines from that as well. There's a ton of stuff in here, and I haven't even mentioned support for other ride lines introduced in these interseasonal sets that we've been getting now, just for older stuff like Minerva, Maelstrom, Luquier, Shojodoji, Archite. It's all in here. We got just a ton of stuff that I'm super excited for, and I've already been coming up with some preliminary deck lists to test out, so I want to share them with you all with the purpose to start discussion down in the comments below to hear what you all are wanting to test in your own decks as well, to exchange ideas, and hopefully once we start testing we can revisit those ideas and discuss them, see what's been successful to help us all improve our own deck lists. Big disclaimer here, all this is pure theory, ranging from stuff I legitimately think will be good to stuff that I just want to try because it seems like it would be fun, hoping that it will end up working out, but not hedging on it. So with that disclaimer out of the way, let's get right into the lists. The first one I wanted to start out with is my Greedon Masques list. This one is a bit out there because Greedon Masques seems to want you to build around Desire Devils with its 3rd skill here, the Axe skill, to check top 7 to find a Desire Devil and add to hand by banishing the original Greedon, and also needing 3 Desire Devils in soul to be able to restand. But there's a lot of Desire Devils that are locked behind the original Greedon that their effects just won't work here. There are some stuff that you can definitely do with those cards, and I have ideas for it, but I honestly want an excuse to use the Oriens here, and I saw synergy between these 2 cards, thus this deck list came into being. Greedon Masques is trying to raise the floor of the original Greedon while lowering its ceiling through just being able to restand a bit more consistently with a lot less resources, just only once per turn now. So I built my deck around that idea to be a beatdown deck that is not trying to win the game as fast as original Greedon, but rather using a lot of value effects to be able to slowly beat down your opponent. The core of it here is the fact that Greedon puts 3 rear guards into soul and 3 cards in soul. That means we can use Orien's 2nd skill to be able to Soul Blast when attacks a grade through a greater unit to draw a card and gain 5k power. That way we are making up for the loss of 1 unit in this exchange, because by putting 3 rear guards into soul, we're only drive trafficking 2, that's a -1 in card advantage. Oriens just gets it right back with the exact resources we were using, which to me seems pretty good, on top of just getting the extra 5k as well. But it has additional synergy with the fact that we want to run the Mask of Hydrogrum here because we need to find our Greedon Masques and then go into it. So just by playing it per turn, we enable Orien's 1st effect to check top 5 to find 1 card grade less than or equal to our Vanguard, which will always be grade 3, and if it's unit card, call it to board, meaning we can find our other attacking pieces or cards to just put into soul with Greedon's effect, or we can find more Mask of Hydrogrums to put to hand to be able to continue this loop here. So honestly, at worst, we use Mask of Hydrogram with, and we're guaranteed a +1 off of the Oriens, or we're getting 1 off of the Mask, and then additional 1 off of Oriens, meaning we're going +1 in card advantage, which is really good. And actually, it could be even more if we find the Mask of Hydrogram off of the Skull Chemda. I do run 4 of this card to more consistently find our Mask to be able to use for this combo, but also because by running Skull Chemda, it gives us more targets to find off a Mask, so we're whiffing it less. Also, the Drag Tree marker is just an added bonus to this. And then from there, just round it out with good cards. Gomon here, being able to put the Soul to Counterblast 1 to make all your attacks for the rest of the turn be Battledore effect seems really strong. So that means there will now be 3 attacks your opponent has to call 2 or more cards to hand to Guardian Circle with, meaning that despite our numbers, I don't think they'll be very big. I mean, we gain 5k here, 10k from Persona Ride. They won't be very big, but all of a sudden, attacks that would normally be able to 1 card guard, well, your opponent will be able to. Now they have to 2 card guard it. So I think Gomon will put in a lot of work here, since why I maxed it out. I also run Clean Sweep, just a great way to just kind of nuke the board. I expect to be Persona Riding here, since that's kind of what Mask does, especially going 2nd. So just be able to leverage more card advantage this time, minusing your opponent, and it can just become a big beater as well. And then of course the Sasio, a new card here, just because the Boshoku normally you'd search out itself, but it only works with the original Avaricious Demonic Dragon Greedon with its in soul effect. So just being able to find a 15k attacker, 10k shield is really strong. And 3 copies, honestly, it really only needs to be 2. The one card I debated running was the grade 1 Dragon Tree card, but I don't love that one because it calls to the same column. Ideally, you can call it to the front row, call a Gomon to the back row, and be fine, but I don't know if I really want to just swing with a 13k attacker when I really could have any of these, and I don't really want to be overcalling stuff. So I decided for right now, I'd just rather have the good attacker and shield card in the Sasio here. I think the final note is Evergreen Transfer, since this deck is trying to be bulkier, a 25k shield for a Soul Blast 1 seems pretty nice. I don't know if this will be super necessary because it is a dead card in hand during my turn, so this might just get replaced, but I thought I'd at least test it out. Moving over to the next new deck I've got Blonde Ezel here, a personal favorite of mine from the OG era, and I think it has the most potential out of any incarnation of Ezel so far, maybe except the 0-1. The 0-1 is actually pretty good. But this card, of course, through the use of Bowman, you can get into it a turn early, which is pretty cool. Just get to grade 3 first, get to Persona Writing first, guaranteed. But also once your opponent does catch up to grade 3, it can start generating you 5 attacks, while also giving itself power, which a bit contradictory. Rather give it to the rear guards, but our deck works with it. And this card is just a great value engine, being able to call cards off of both of its skills. Now, specifically, it needs to call to open rearguard circles, so we are actually pretty piece reliant, because the ways we get cards off board are the Dendrain, which can put the unit it boosted to the bottom of the deck to restand itself after it boosts, as well as the Bowman, where it can give itself 5k, but it puts itself to the bottom of the deck after it attacks. So the goal of the deck is to find these cards so we can keep resetting them to be able to get the full 5 attacks with Blonde Ezel. That's why we have cards such as the Default here. It's pretty much the same as the Oriens in that if you played a normal order, you can Soul Blast 1 to check top 5 and call a unit card with grade less than or equal to your Vanguard circle to Vanguard to Rearguard circle, or add an order to hand, a normal order to hand that you revealed. But unlike Oriens, it does, instead of being able to draw a card, as long as you have 4 more units, it gets 10k. So it's just a big beater, which by itself is really good and can help us plus to board. Now, notably, it would not trigger off of Ezel's effect, but that is fine. We're just trying to find our pieces before we move to the battle phase. Now, of course, we need an order to use with this. That's why we've got the Reign Supreme, King of Beasts, check top 7, call a card from on the rearguard circle, and give it 5k. And we want to run this card, Gareth Searches is out. It's a great way to continue to build a board with Ezel, and then it synergizes with this card. It just seems like a no-brainer here. So that's a great card. And then, of course, the Kyrebree, a really nice card to round it out, can help us find our pieces, but also it can find more pieces than the Default, because if we reveal an Ezel, we can get that Persona Right copy to hand. If we find Reign Supreme, King of Beasts, just like the Default, it can add it to hand. So that one... Okay, that one's pretty self-explanatory, but mostly it's the Persona Ride here, which I really do like with that card. And then just more plussing with the Silver Fang Witch, being able to convert a Counterblast into a draw while also gaining some power. We do have Countercharge if need be in Dendrain. It's for Soul Blast too, which is a bit expensive, and this deck doesn't generate too much soul, but it's there if we do need it. And then kind of rounding it out, since rearguard power is so important with the multi-attack, I do run the one Gradius Gradale just to get that power if need be. It's a bit conflicting, so I expect to either drop down the count of Reign Supreme King of Beasts or just cut the Gradius Gradale outright, but I want to test both of them for the time being. And of course, this build, since its rearguards lack a bit of power, I chose to run 6 front with only 5 crit, just really focusing on that 5 attack and overwhelming the opponent versus trying to snipe them down with a ton of crit power. Also notably, this is the second deck I'm running the Idasfaro in. I think being able to loop back specific cards such as your Persona Ride pieces or Dendrains is going to be super crucial with this deck, and the extra crit also helps mean this is really a 6 crit in the deck as well. Moving away from the new decks, all decks from here on out just take my previous build and just upgrade it with the new cards. So same core concept, just with some new cards. So starting with Thegrea here, I did make a video on this one, so I'm not going to go over everything again, just the new additions, and that being the new Épée de Justice Thegrea. This is a great consistency card for the deck while also being an enabler for double Persona Ride, which is kind of crazy here. And because this card is really good at helping with consistency, I did cut down on the other Thegreas, not only running 2 Dark Thegrea and 1 Light Thegrea in the deck, because when this card is placed by running grade 3 Thegrea in its card name during the ride phase until end of turn, this unit is regarded as having the same name as the unit it rode upon, and you can search your deck for up to 1 card Thegrea in its card name and put it to soul and shuffle your deck. What this effectively means is we still run in the Light Thegrea because just being able to build a board is a bit better, but we trigger the first Persona Ride because this, when you normal ride a unit with Thegrea and it's a different card name for this unit becomes Persona Ride, meaning that you're still getting the Persona Ride off for the first time with this. This then copies the name of Light Thegrea and can now search us out our Dark Thegrea, hence only the 2 copies, put it to soul to then use its second effect, which act once per turn on Vanguard Circle. You can discard a card, choose 1 grade 3 unit with Thegrea and its different card name from this unit from your soul, ride as stand. If you rode, bind this card and activate Persona Ride, and you cannot ride until the end of turn. So what this does is, now that we got the Dark Thegrea and Soul, we just discard 1, we now get to Persona Ride into it, and since this is regarded as Light Thegrea, Dark Thegrea gets all of its skills. So double Persona Ride more consistently because we can now search our deck for our Thegreas, just seemed like a great consistency tool. I still run the 1 Light Thegrea in the deck because if I don't find Épée de Justice Thegrea, I still want to use the Maple to be able to get the next copy of Persona Ride to keep it going into hand. But if I run if I end up drawing into that Justice Thegrea for like my draw for turn, I still want to ride it. And once I pull one of these Thegreas out of Soul, I don't have the setup to be able to loop them. So having another Light Thegrea in deck means that a Justice Thegrea can still search it out and find it if it's still in deck. It's not foolproof, but it does make the deck a bit better so we can still go through that double Persona Ride. And because we still, of course, run our Oath of Vengeance Thegrea, now we're getting plus 15k for each Persona Ride. That's plus 30k total and can draw us 4 cards, which is insane and ideal just to close out the game a bit quicker and make sure that we have that hand size to protect if we aren't able to grasp it that turn. The only other new thing I'm trying out is this new Blitz order, Mine is Yours Country's Foundation. So by discarding a card, you get to choose one of the units being attacked. It gets 5,000 power, and you get to choose 4 heals from your drop and call them to Guardian Circle. The idea behind this card for me is I have so many discards, like literally all our Thegrea's discard, that if I don't have heals set up, I can just discard it and no harm, no foul. But since I'm cycling through my deck so much now, drawing up to 4 cards if I have the proper setup through Persona Rides alone, and then of course I've got Spiral Cutie Angels in the early game and the late game adding stuff to hand, we should be able to accumulate heals, guard with them early, get them all up, and we can just have a big guard when we need it. That's the idea for this card at least. Will it be good? We'll see. Is this card going to cause me to brick? I actually think this card deck will draw enough where it won't be, but that's what I want to find out in testing. And that's why only 1 copy. If I really like it, maybe 2. I just don't know where I'd find space, but I really wanted to test it because it seemed like a really fun idea. But honestly, if you're not interested, just cut this and bump Kyrie up to 3. I cut Kyrie down to 2 because I do think it is one of the least useful cards in the strategy of this deck. But at the same time, maybe I will miss it because it can help us find our Apidu Justice Thegrea to add to hand for Persona Riding and just call out other pieces. We'll see in testing. Oh, and because I'm running the Splits order, I actually go back to running 4 of the Aegis Mare. I've been noticing this trend in general in Japan, and because triple drive decks are becoming less common overall. So while the Blitz order is nice, Flagberg actually hasn't been too big either, so you don't really need the Blitz order guard restrict. So I can see why people are wanting to maybe keep the PGs that can be 1 guard PGs and maybe testing out some other Blitz orders to have more defensive cards overall, and that's exactly what I'm doing here. Moving over to Shojodoji, one I've been super excited for because of the 2 new double words, which I think really help the deck. They are Stealth Fiend Ezel. This card, when placed on Rearguard Circle, if I have Shojodoji Vanguard, lets me counterblast 1 to check top 5 and choose a normal use Stealth in his card name from among them, reveal it, put in hand, and shuffle your deck. So this is a great consistency card as it can help us find out our Persona Rides or our PGs as we switch over to running the Stealth PGs from the Trial deck. Just that extra consistency I think will be super helpful. And this card also effectively connects the 2 sides of Shojodoji, the bind your opponent's rearguard side, as well as the resource loop from Soul, Bind, and Board. Because when it's put into Soul from Rearguard Circle, you choose one of your opponent's face-up cards in their bind zone, put it on the bottom of the deck, and choose one of your Vanguards and gain 5k power. So to boot, it also gets your Vanguard power, which I think was another weakness of Shojodoji as well. So this card just feels so good. And to combine with it, we've got the Stealth Rogue of Path of Chains, Kagechika here. This card, when placed on Rearguard Circle, lets us choose a stealth card from our drop zone and put into Soul. And I really love this skill because it was so painful drawing into the Unpresidents because it would take too long to set up. But now we can discard it for Ride Line and use the Kagechika here, put it to Soul, and it's all set up for us to bind off a Shojodoji skill and then call with Shojodoji's other skill. In addition, it has auto Rearguard Circle. When your other unit is placed on Rearguard Circle from Bind Zone, if you have a Vanguard Shojodoji in its card name, you may put this unit to Soul to draw a card. This style effect has historically been very, very strong, and right now we're in a Gandiva meta where your opponent is retiring our board, and just being able to tag this card out from board to a card in hand is so good, especially against those control heavy decks that pop cards on board. And this is just good in general. Getting more stealth units into Soul for Soul Blast cost or bind cost with Shojodoji is great, and just digging through your deck faster to find more Shojodoji Persona Rides and your other pieces is also phenomenal, or just shield value in general. Besides these 2 obvious cards, just trying them out because they are really good cards, I am running the Forbidal Surrogate over the Gradius Gradale because we can find Persona Ride a bit more consistently now. I want to test out a different Regalis piece, and the idea behind this card is this can convert into an Unpresident, and then Unpresident can use its skill to Soul Blast 1 to draw a card. So this card just ends up being +2 in card advantage. And I do actually run another grade 3, so this can go +3 in the form of Stealth Dragon Dual Wielder. This card I don't think is very strong in terms of its effect. I mean, when it attacks from Rearguard Circle, if you have a Shojodoji Vanguard, you can counterblast 1, bind 1 other Rearguard, choose a face-up card in your opponent's bind zone, put it to the bottom of the deck. If you did not put a card, choose a unit card from your bind zone with Stealth in its card name with grade less than or equal to your Vanguard. You may put it into your hand. So this card is it's not bad by any means. Being able to bot deck an opponent's card from bind zone is strong, or being able to loop back any stealth card in your bind zone is really strong. Like you can bind a Shojodoji to loop back Persona Rides, or loop back a PG. All that's possible with this card. I just think it's too expensive. A Counterblast and a bind? If it's just a bind, I'd be way more interested in this card overall. And it also kind of competes for grade 3 space, so I just include the 1. So if it's still in deck at the time I use Forbid All Surrogate, I just get maximum value off it with an extra attacker. I don't expect to use its skill. Maybe it'll come up and it's nice to have it, but it's really just for that. Honestly, I'm not convinced that this will be very good. I just wanted to test it out. Honestly, it might even just be fine cutting this and just leaving 4 Unpresident, so you just go Unpresident, draw 1. I don't know. We'll see in testing overall. But the final tech I kind of run in this deck, the final tech I do run in this deck is the Defensing Roar, a new blitz order out of the set. Lets us choose one of our Guardians without Sentinel, and until end of that battle, it gets auto when this unit is retired from Guardian Circle, put this unit card into your hand, and that card you choose gets shield plus 10k. So how I look at this card is that the shield value this card provides is effectively the shield value on the card you select plus 10,000. And that's really cool with stuff like, especially the over trigger. You could just get double 50k shield. That's insane. But even just doing with the 20k front shield here, the Parama, that's really good. These 2 cards get 30k, you get 20k of it back to use on another guard. That honestly by itself just sounds really strong for me. And this card has extra utility on top of it. I can even choose to intercept with our Ezel and be able to loop it back with the Defensing Roar to reuse its first skill the following turn. Or like, I could see a scenario where you don't have enough cards in hand to effectively guard all the attacks, but you want to keep some of these cards to be able to aggress next turn. And let's just use Forktail for an example. I know that's not the best example. Let's use it for this example. Call down Forktail, use this order, and still get it back to replay. Now, I think this scenario is a bit less likely just because you can make the argument that just replaces with any card shield value and wouldn't even be in that scenario. But at the same time, just having that utility is pretty cool in my opinion. So I have high hopes for this card. We'll see in testing though if it lives up to it. The next deck I have here is Luquier, which got 2 cards. One in the form of the promo here, Stream Performer Toj. When it's put into soul by your card's ability, if you have Vanguard with only Pale Moon for its clan, you can bind this card, search your deck, or drop for up to 1 grade 3 card, put it to soul, and if you search your deck, shuffle your deck. This is a phenomenal consistency card for this deck, being able to find our order here to give us our multi-attack, or just to be able to find an Urselchi to be able to get countercharge online. Just great there. And then from the main set, we got the Jovial Juggler that counts as a grade 0 when being chose from soul by a Vanguard's ability, and when it's placed on rearguard circle from soul by the active ability of a Vanguard with only Pale Moon for its clan. You may put 1 other rearguard into your soul, choose 1 card from your soul, call to rearguard circle at the end of that turn, put the called unit back into your soul. So this provides the deck ton of utility. For one, it can call itself out along with another grade 1, kind of bypassing the different grades restriction that Luquier has, which is really nice. And its ability to put 1 rearguard into soul and call another one out also gets around that, while also providing great utility where you can call something out like a Urselchi that you're just using for its utility effect to then be able to tag into other crucial value cards such as the Falcate Performer, or power cards such as the Clean Sweep Dragon or our Rising Dragon here. I furthermore like the Jovial Juggler because it puts that unit back into soul at the end of turn, meaning you can pull more units into soul to dodge stuff like Gandiva, but you also can just choose with Luquier's skill to put the card you would put into soul anyway back if you want just pure value as well. So it's very flexible in that sense. As such, I did cut back on the order because now I have the Toj to help find it, and my thought is with the 2 Toj, I can use it to help me find either the order if I'm missing it or the Urselchi as well. And I figured I don't need more than that because I still have Falcate Performer just to loop stuff back, and then Falcate Performer is a bit more flexible than the Toj in my opinion. And then 3 Jovial Juggler, I really wish I could find space for a 4th one, but ideally once I get 1 in loop and rotation, that should be a-okay, so I think the 3 will be fine, but we'll see in testing. I might need to adjust around these ratios a bit more. And with this deck being super bulky, I decided to try the Evergreen Transfer, running now 4 of the effect PGs. Overall, we'll see if it matters because I might not even have the soul for this. The soul might be a bit too close. I think it just kind of depends on how much I'm cycling cards in with the Rising Dragon overall, but I thought I'd at least try it. This deck might not even need it. The next and final encounter ride line I'll be showcasing is the Maelstrom deck, which got also a promo card and a new card, a double rare from the set. The promo card is Flow Strike Brave Shooter, which gains 5k power for each Blue Storm Armada in your order zone, which is so needed for that nice power gain. But also from the back row rearguard circle at the end about this, that your other rearguard in the same column as this unit attacked, as long as you have a Maelstrom Vanguard, you can Crowd Blast 1 and switch this unit with the unit in front of it. Pretty much just getting you an extra attack for a Counterblast. and that is strong for sure. And then the Tier Knight Icirrus here, when placed on Rearguard Circle, as long as you have a Vanguard with only Aqua Force for its clan, you can discard a card from your hand, search your deck, or drop for up to 1 Blue Storm Armada card, reveal it, put it in your hand, and if you search your deck, shuffle it. So a good consistency card to help find Blue Storm Armadas, and also gives the deck some flexibility to discard Blue Storm Armadas for Ride deck, which I really appreciate. The deck space here was really tight. I would really like to run 4 Flow Strike Brave Shooter, especially with Retire being a thing, but I'm going to try it at 3, just because I don't think it will be too impactful until I get at least 2 Judgment Maelstroms out on board. That might be wrong. I'll have to see in testing. And I still want to run 2 of the Icirrus just for the extra flexibility, and because these Blue Storm Armadas are so important, I figured that just having effectively 2 extra copies of it in deck is really strong. It's not insane because we have to discard a card for it, meaning we discard 1, it turns into a Judgment Maelstrom, which then converts to either an Aqua Force or a Tear Dragon on board, so you're not really plussing, you're just kind of transferring around where you're calling stuff. But I'm hoping that will be good enough as well. So I still want to, of course, keep our 4 Inlet Pulse because this card's insane, our 4 Tidal Assault as our main attacker. But then from there, I could see maybe cutting down on Tideline Dragons, but this is such a big power gain to the board, which the board already needs. But I figured I could at least cut down on Wheel Assault because we have more boosters in the Icirrus and then more multi-attackers. So now at least we have some flexibility. Whether we have the Counterblast to multi-attack, we can go Flow Strike Brave Shooter. If we don't have the Counterblast but instead have the Soul, we can use Wheel Assault. But overall, this deck will definitely be very strapped on resources, so I'm really waiting for some better resource management cards. Or maybe I just need to organize this deck list and run the Prize Trident to get it. We'll see in testing. Another cool thing from Clash of Heroes is that the 2 Stride deck sets got 1 double rare each. Now I didn't include Chrono Jet even though I have the deck, just because I don't think the card changes anything for the deck. I don't think it's very good. But Messiah, their new card, one who fulfills Spherical Harmony, I do think has a place in this deck. Mostly because Gandiva's a thing. And Gandiva can snipe your Awakening Messiah so you don't have a unit on board to lock with Alter Ego Messiah. This card fixes it, because when this unit is retired from Rearguard Circle, Guardian Circle, you Soul Blast 1, call this card to an open back or Rearguard Circle as rest, meaning it sets itself up to be able to use locked off of Alter Ego Messiah. Now of note, you do have to time this right because Gandiva does have a way to retire stuff during the battle phase, but it's very telegraphed so you can easily play around it. This card also has another ability, Auto on Rearguard Circle. At the end of battle, this unit boosted. If your Vanguard is grade 4 or greater, put this unit to Soul, choose one of your units, and it gets power plus 5k. So some extra power buff, but more importantly, it converts a card on board into Soul, which then Alter Ego Messiah can then convert into a draw with its GB2 effect, which is really effective. So against Gandiva, this card is perfect for the deck. Now, deck space was really tight because I still want my Astrolabes because they also give us a draw and are big beaters to close out the game. I still want my lockers in the I'm failing at this, Kaluzar Klein, the Arrestor Messiah, as well as the Sacrifice Messiah. So I really want to max them out because I need to see them. So there really wasn't much deck space. I ended up cutting the Makani just because while it's good, it can convert to 2 cards off of our Alter Ego Messiah skill. This card's also crucial to help us lock stuff down and give power. So I don't know what necessarily will end up being better, the 2 Soul to lock off, but it's kind of a trade because without this effect, we're no longer locking 2 units, which means that we're getting 2 less cards unlocked at the end of turn. But this means that we're also not getting the 2 Soul to possibly unlock with it. So I want to test to see if this one's worth it. I don't know if I'd say I'd bet on it, but I at least want to try it out. I also decided to run the Evergreen Transfer in this deck. I don't know if this deck will have the Soul, but maybe keeping a Soul instead of drawing a card just to have a 25k shield will be fine. We'll see. I can see this easily being cut and maybe some ratios being adjusted around to be able to make room for maybe some Makani. We'll see in testing. I'll be honest, this one is the one this list I'm least confident in. And then finally we have Bavsargra here because I wanted to test 2 cards, the Latifa as well as the Defensing Roar. Now, only one Defensing Roar because there really isn't enough space in this deck, but I really wanted to try it out. Being able to reset Latifas as well is pretty cool, and just being able to get more out of our guard since this is only a 3 attack deck, meaning we can outgrind the opponent a bit more effectively, or at least attempt to do so. But the Latifa was the one I was mainly interested in, since this deck is inherently playing Orders Through the Arms. Just being able to look at top 5 to help us find our Trick Moons and other pieces more consistently seems really strong, and this also can gain 5k for each open Rearguard Circle in the same column as this unit. Bavsargra notably does clear out the front row, meaning this is at least gaining 5k, which to me seems really strong. And the idea was that instead of having to go through that grade 1 promo to set Trickstar into drop to then recall off either Bavsargra or Aleshnia, we can just call it directly from deck. And then from there, we either are calling off a Bavsargra if it gets retired, or we can reset stuff with Aleshnia. So the other factor of that is why I'm running 4 Latifa and only 3 Aleshnia is that we can call Latifa in the early game to find those Trick Moons, and then when the Trick Moons get picked off, we can use Aleshnia to bring them right back. But those are the 8 deck lists that I'm looking to test initially. As I agreed on, there will be a 9th one with the Desire Devils, but I want to focus on this one first, thus I have not made a Desire Devil list yet. But with all these deck lists out of the way, I want to hear from you all. What decks are you testing? What kind of fun cards are you looking to try out? And what really anything to do with your deck builds for Clash of Heroes? I want to hear down in the comments below. Let's get a good discussion going. I'm really excited for it. And if you've enjoyed this video, please consider leaving a like on this video to show that you are enjoying it, as well as subscribing and turning on the notification bell so you're notified when I do upload more Vanguard content, because there'll be certainly plenty more coming out. I mean, this only 1 month before set 12. That's a very short window to test all this. I don't think I'll get there, but at the same time, if it bleeds over, it's fine. But there'll definitely be plenty more Vanguard content coming out real soon, so look forward to it.